Hello, I'm Ian McLachlan. I'm a judge of the Superior Court, and I'm also a Cooper Fellow of the Connecticut Bar Foundation. Today I'm going to be speaking with Lee S. McKeithan of the Greenwich Bar in connection with the Connecticut Bar Foundation's Oral History Project concerning women at the bar. I think it's very appropriate that we have Lee with us this morning because her given name is really Aura Lee. So Lee is here for the Oral History Project. Good morning, Lee. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Lee, tell me, your name is it truly Aura Lee, right?
It truly is Aura Lee. My father and mother's initials were O-R-A. My mother's initials were O-R-A, and her name was that, and my father's name was Lee, so I have both their names. When I went to law school, I always wanted to be just called Lee Smith. Out of 6 girls in the beginning class of 30, 2 of us were named Lee Smith. So
really?
Each one of us had to use her given name, which neither one of us liked, but that's why it is on my law school diploma. And how you happen to know.
To know that your name was, or that secret that you kept all these years? Yeah. So, and that was when you started at Duke Women's College, is that right?
At Duke Law School, at the Law School of Duke University, yes.
Tell me, my grandmother used to say, you don't speak to a woman about her age, except once she reaches 80, she's proud to talk about her age. Can you tell us when you were born?
I'm well past 80. I was born April 24th, 1913.
And where?
In Albemarle, which was the county seat of Stanley County, in the middle of North Carolina, a small town. And nobody even in North Carolina knows where it is, but everybody knows Albemarle Sound, 200 miles away on the coast, on the Atlantic coast.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought it would be on. Yeah. So how far is it from Durham?
It's about 120 miles from Durham.
Wow. We in Connecticut, 120 miles is a whole state away. Yeah. So, and what's the nearest big city?
Beg pardon?
What's the nearest big city?
Charlotte is 40
Charlotte.
miles to the west of Albemarle. We identified ourselves as being near Charlotte.
I see. And what kind of town was it? Was it a rural farming community, or?
It was a small town with a good many cotton mills and knitting mills, cannon mills, and other mills were there. And it was 7 miles from a small town called Baden, where the Aluminum Company of America had a big smelting plant.
Oh, really?
And the Aluminum Company built dams along the Yadkin River, which later in South Carolina was known as the PD River, for water power for their smelting plant.
Oh, really?
So that was an industry, and there were, and 2 railroads at least ran through town. And my father was a lawyer, and he represented all the corporations and so forth.
Yeah. And in addition to your father and mother, you had other siblings, brothers and sisters?
I had 2 brothers who both became lawyers, and I had a sister who was the oldest one in the family. I was the youngest. And
you were the youngest, so and the boys were in between?
The boys were in between.
Yeah. And as far as your school before college, did you go to local schools?
Yes, I went to Albemarle schools, and the high school, it was an 11-grade system, which was true all over North Carolina. So I graduated from high school when I was just 16, 11 grades, but 4 years of Latin, 2 years of French, all those good things, geometry and so forth.
Well, it's pretty advanced, pretty rigorous. And then you went to?
Went to Duke.
The Duke Women's College?
To Women's College at Duke. And we thought it was the best school in the state at that time. And the Methodist minister wrote a letter for me, and I was in.
Really, that was what it took.
That was it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Had your brothers gone to Duke?
My older brother went to law school at Duke years before, and was one of his real mentors and ideals in life was Dean Mordecai, who had been the law school and run the law school for years. Famous man in the law.
And growing up, did you participate in any special activities when you were in school or anything? I mean,
no,
in a rural town?
I just had to study and do my homework, and that was about it.
Yeah. And your mother was at home, I take it?
My father had been a teacher. He had to go help pay his way through college. And his father thought it was a sin to be a lawyer. He thought all lawyers were crooks. So my father couldn't study law until after his father's death, out of respect for him.
Really?
And then he studied law on his own. In the meantime, he had a little private school. And my mother had finished junior college in South Carolina, and she got a job teaching music and elocution at this little school in an even smaller town in North Carolina near Albemarle. And she married the boss.
She married the boss. It worked out.
It worked out.
And so when you were at college at Duke, that was a 4-year program.
Yes.
As well. And what did you study there?
Well, I really liked mathematics, but my mother had always said, my daughters have to know how to support themselves. And I didn't think I could support myself in mathematics, so I studied English. I didn't want to be a teacher. And but I had a, if you really want the truth, why I went to law school, I had a Ford automobile, the first Model A, which my father had given me when I graduated from high school. And I wanted to have it at college. And of course it was against the rule to have an automobile on the campus. So I kept bugging the dean of women, when can I have my car, So toward the end of my junior year, she said, well, Lee, when you come back to us as a graduate student, then you can have your car. So I looked at my courses, and I realized that if I went to summer school, I could graduate in the summer. So I graduated despite the dean and went back to law school, went back to, as a graduate student. Yeah. So then I thought, what can I take? I've got another year, I can stay here. And so I thought, well, why not study law?
In some of the information, there was an interesting article that Duke did some years ago on 70 years of women at Duke Law School, and I read it. You were nice enough to supply it to me. And it indicates that the dean then actually solicited women from the women's college. Is that right? Dean
Well,
Miller?
he wanted to encourage women to come, and he split a scholarship between another girl and me. Scholarship was $125, so he split it between another girl and me. And he got 6 of us to start that class.
6 women. And you said 2 were named Lee Smith?
2 were named Lee Smith.
What a coincidence, interesting. And 2 of you graduated.
And another girl and I were the ones who graduated, and the other, Lee Smith, was working her way through, and she graduated 2 years later.
Oh, she did. Oh, that's interesting. In that article that you supplied, it indicated that of the 17 women who started Duke Law School in the 30s, fewer than half graduated. Only eight graduated. So.
Well, 3 in my class did not graduate. 1 dropped out before Christmas. That we thought that the torts professor, I don't know whether this was true in every law school, but I thought the torts professors thought it was their job to weed out the faint-hearted. And one of the girls was just highly insulted because the torts professor said some remark about women, and she was furious that he thought we would not survive. And she was the first to drop out before Christmas. And one girl was taking a combined course. You could take senior year at Duke and first year law school together and graduate from college. And she could not afford to go on to school, so she read law on her own, never went back and took any more courses, was admitted to the bar and practiced.
No kidding.
And then she moved to Florida and had a very successful, distinguished career as a legislator in Florida.
Interesting. Tell me about that torts professor, and do you think he gave the women a hard time?
He gave everybody in the class a hard time, and I guess the women took it personally, you know. So he got up and, you know, and raved, and one day he got so mad, he had his watch open on his desk, and he got so mad he knocked the desk over, and the watch fell on the floor in pieces. And that was the kind of professor everybody sort of.
I don't know, did you ever see the movie The Paper Chase? It was a movie about Harvard Law School, and I think it was, you know, our memory gets bad for dates backwards, but my guess is it would have been probably in the early 70s. And that was an interesting movie about, I believe, Professor Kingsfield. I think he was a torts professor at Harvard. It does seem that there was always one. And tell me, were there other professors that were difficult?
No, I don't recall any of the others being difficult. They just treated us like people, and so did the men in the class. You know, I never felt any discrimination. We were just all good friends.
How large was your class?
30.
30, of which 6 initially were women.
Right.
Or was it 30 that finished or started?
No, actually, I looked at a book I have about the graduates. More people than that graduated. I think 37 graduated, but some must have come from other years, you know. But 30 were in the entering class.
Including the 2 women.
Including,
So that was your first. You've had a number of firsts over your life, and the first was you were one of the first women in the first class at Duke that graduated women from the law school.
2 of us graduated in that class.
So,
and I didn't realize that until a couple of years ago when they were doing this article. I didn't know I was first. I just was doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, when you were at the law school, were there other women? There must have been. During that period, as I said, there were 17 women who matriculated in the 30s, and so you started when? In 33?
In 32.
32. And the woman who had started before you and had dropped out, the first woman admitted, she was gone by the time you got there.
Oh, yes. I never knew her.
Right.
Oh, yeah, she was much earlier.
Yeah, I think she started in 27. Yeah. So, and as you sit here today, if I said to you, tell me about law school, what's the first remembrance you have or the first incident that you can recall?
I don't really know. I think maybe I remember sitting in that torts class, but other than that, I don't
you remember the desk going over with the watch
thing.
on the floor.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and you say you got along well with the other members of the class, males and the other woman?
Yes.
Was there a lot of socializing in those days?
Oh, well, we were all good friends together. I don't know how to say that. And we studied together. I used to go back to the library every night and sit at the table with other people. I could study better that way. And we studied together and had lunch together, and that was it.
Well, obviously you lived in Durham because it was 120 miles from your home.
Yes.
So you were there for 7 years total.
Right.
Yeah. And you came to like Durham, I take it.
No, 6.
6. Oh, right, because you finished early. Yeah. And it was an interesting experience. Huh?
It was.
Did you participate in any extra activities when you were at Duke?
I was on Law Review one year, and I was on the Board of Governors of the Bar Association one year. Other than that, I think we just spent our time studying.
Yeah, just study. And did you have any concentration of courses, anything that you studied particularly?
I took just about everything there was, except I didn't take litigation or trial court. I didn't really want to be a litigator.
And why was that?
I don't know. I got terrible stage fright, so
Well,
I didn't think I could be a
really?
litigator.
Do you think it would have been difficult for women in those days to be in court as a lawyer?
No, I don't think so. I did appear in court some, and I worked with my father, who I argued a good many cases before the Supreme Court, and I never had a problem.
So the reality
I never
of,
felt any discrimination or anything.
the reality of practicing law wasn't as bad as you feared as far as being in the public.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. What decided you to go to law school? I mean, it can't be just because you could bring your Model A to school.
Well, I had listened to law all my life at the dinner table, you know, with a father and two brothers who were lawyers. And when the judges came to town, you know, on a rotation, we always had the judge for dinner, and it was just part of our family life. And I guess that was it.
And you found it interesting. Yeah. Anybody in particular inspire you or motivate you? Just your father?
I think so.
Yeah. And you said he had a general practice? He did litigation?
He did a little of everything, you know. He was a country lawyer, and he did whatever came along. He was a great lawyer. And he took us, from the time I was 9 years old, he took us to Bar Association meetings. We went to San Francisco, the American Bar Association, when I was 9, and he took my mother and sometimes my sister and me, and we went to state Bar Association meetings. He was on he was elected to the Board of Governors of the American Bar Association, which founded the American Law Institute. So then after I was practicing with him, he took me to the American Law Institute meetings. So I had a lot of exposure with him.
And so you enjoyed that?
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was great. And do you remember any cases particularly of his that stick out in your mind?
Well, there was one case, I think it was the last case I argued before the Supreme Court, which was interesting. I think it was what they call a seminal case. It was after the Depression, when a lot of banks and savings banks had been taken over by other banks. And he represented some people who had deposits in a savings bank which had been taken over. And when the assets were finally liquidated, they were going to be apportioned among the people who had accounts in the resulting bank. And my father took their case because they had never made any deposits in the bank after it was taken over. And he argued that they had never ratified the takeover, and they were entitled to get a portion of assets that they had in the original bank.
Oh, and
not what had been diluted by the takeover.
In the successor bank. Yeah.
And won the case.
Now, you, I think, jumped over something. You said you argued that case in the Supreme Court?
He gave me all the juicy things to do, you know, and I argued 6 or 7 cases before the Supreme Court.
The North Carolina Supreme Court?
North Carolina.
Yeah. It was pretty interesting for somebody who didn't want to be a litigator.
Yeah, I guess so, but I didn't think I could do, you know, courtroom work. I mean, asking witnesses questions and things like that.
Well, you have such a pleasant, gentle person's manner that I think you'd be very effective as a questioner.
Right.
So tell me then, you graduated in 35. And I think you'd said to me earlier, you took the bar a year earlier. You were permitted to take it after 2 years. So you passed the bar course. And that made your third year less stressful, I take it. Got to spend more time in your Model A then, did you?
That's right.
So, and what was your first job from law school?
I just went in the office with my father and worked with him.
Yeah, and tell us the name of his firm. It's interesting, I think.
It was R.L. Smith and Sons.
And he never changed it.
And he never changed the name.
Even though he sent you to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Interesting. And obviously that was your two brothers, and you practiced with the three of them for how long?
Yeah, one of my brothers left the firm soon after and moved to Washington, D.C., so just left my older brother there. And until I got married and moved to New York. I had been active in the Bar Association, so I'll tell you some funny, anyway.
You can tell me some funny stories.
Well, I was listed on, as third vice president of the North Carolina Bar Association. So our main speaker at this meeting was a lawyer from New York, and he said, "Oh, when you get married and come to New York, I'll help you get admitted to the bar in New York." And well, that gave me the idea that, well, maybe I could do that. So after I moved to New York, I started trying to get admitted there, and was admitted, and all the judges of the Supreme Justices wrote letters for me of the North Carolina Supreme Court. And so I was there again. I didn't realize it till afterwards. I was the first woman admitted on motion in the First District of New York.
Yeah, First Department. And that's the second of your firsts, at least as far as your legal career is concerned. Yeah. Tell me, when did you marry?
In 1939.
1939.
But by adding the year before I graduated from law school and the years after I went, my husband traveled a lot, and I would go back and practice in North Carolina while he was away, so we added that together.
So you had your 5 years of practice?
So I actually had 6 years practice. And so I was admitted in 1941 in New York.
In New York. Did you ever practice in New York?
I did some volunteer work at the Legal Aid Society, but by the time I was admitted, I was pregnant with our first child. So I figured that then I entered my second career, which was raising children, and did that till my youngest one got a driver's license.
And how many children do you have?
4.
4? And so your legal career then got interrupted for 20 years, more
40,
than?
Almost 40. I mean, it's almost 40 between bar exams.
Yeah. And Connecticut wasn't gracious enough to admit you on motion. You had to sit for the bar.
Well, Connecticut required that you do active trial work for 5 years immediately before you were admitted. And I had gotten a job with Cummings and Lockwood, as you know. I wanted a job once I didn't have to chauffeur people all day, and didn't know anything about Connecticut law at all. But I knew a lady. I was resigning from I did a lot of volunteer work all the time. I was raising children, things that were connected with them. And I was resigning from a volunteer committee, and this lady said, "Well, talk to my husband. He's a hiring partner at Cummings and Lockwood." And I said,
that was Bill Lynch?
No, it was Ralph Nichols.
Oh, Ralph Nichols, Pammy Nichols.
Yeah, and so I finally screwed up my courage and called him, and he said, "Did you ever do any title searching?" And I said, "Well, yes, I did a lot in North Carolina, but I don't know anything about Connecticut." And he said, "Well, let me talk to Phil Drake, So he talked to Phil Drake in the Greenwich office, and his title searcher was elderly, and they were looking around for somebody. So he said, you can come and learn under him.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and learned on a part-time basis.
And when was that?
That was in 1938.
1968.
68. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then my husband died suddenly, and the men in the firm started saying, why don't you take the Connecticut bar exam? And I said, you're out of your mind. I couldn't take a bar exam. And I said, give it a fling and, try it. So I borrowed my son's bar exam review book from New York State to see if I could even understand the questions and studied it and finally decided, it was something, an opportunity I couldn't turn down, and I had nothing to lose but my pride. So I took a cram course with a friend.
And you took the bar in 73?
Mm-hmm.
73, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So between 1941, tell me, when you were at Legal Services, that was for a relatively short period of time?
Very short. Mm-hmm.
And was that in the city?
In the city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband, as I recall, he worked for an oil company?
At first, and then American Can Company. Mm-hmm.
That's how you came to Greenwich?
Mm-hmm.
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 And your 4 children were born when?
From 41 to 50.
To 50.
In that span.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at least one is a lawyer?
One's a lawyer.
Your son?
My son. Mm-hmm. One son.
And one of your children lives in Thailand, is that right?
Right.
Which one is that?
My oldest son was in foreign service and loved Thailand and married a Thai and decided to retire and live there. And
it makes for some nice but long vacations, doesn't it?
It's great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And his daughter lives with you?
And his youngest daughter lives with me now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in Old Greenwich. And how long have you lived in that great house in Old Greenwich?
Since 1950. We moved there in 1950.
So, and by that time you had your 4 children?
The last one was born there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very interesting. And you were involved in the Greenwich community during all that time?
Of church and community and educational, organizations.
Yeah.
And
what activities did you enjoy the most during that period of time?
I think the one that I really enjoyed the most and got the most out of was American Field Service.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest son when he was in high school heard about it and wanted to apply to go abroad, and they sent him to Italy for 6 months, which was a great eye-opening experience for all the family. And we got involved with helping with the foreign students and so forth. And
as they would come to the States.
Just a great organization.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And their office is still not far from your office in Greenwich, right? I mean, the AFS office is not too far from
that's American Institute of Foreign Study, which is different from American Field Service. American Field Service was founded by ambulance drivers who drove in the First World War.
Oh, really?
And started trying to do things to help, and eventually felt that the best way was to bring foreign students from abroad here and let them go to school and live in an American family. And then those families began organizing in Europe to bring, and also in other countries later, to bring American students over there to study. And we benefited from that program.
And what did you do as a volunteer?
Raise money.
Right.
And help, and interview students and things like that.
And were there contact people that could see the children when they first came before they went to live with the families and all?
We didn't do that ourselves, but we did house some students who were between homes and things like that. And we had one foreign student who went to Hotchkiss but spent vacations with us, and I had others who stayed with us from time to time, or others who came just for a visit in Greenwich. At the end of their school year, they were given each group was given a bus tour around another part of the United States, and they stayed with families on this bus tour, and we entertained them there.
Yeah. And how did your children like that?
Oh, they loved it.
Yeah.
It was great for them.
Yeah, that's good. And you've gotten awards from the YWCA in Greenwich, among other people, so you must have been active with the Y.
Well, not with the Y. I was a little bit. I took some courses at the Y, and I was on the board at one time. But I did a lot of different organizations, you know, church and Sunday school and various jobs at the church. I did a lot of those, and I did various PTAs and Greenwich Association for Public Schools and League of Women Voters. And then after I did all the things that were sort of connected with my children when they were growing up. And then after I started to work in a law firm, and got admitted to the bar, I thought I should I became a member of town meeting and served on town meeting for 20 years and on the town officers committee, which interviewed candidates for office in town. Had to be approved by the town meeting.
For candidates for office, really?
Yes, people who were nominated, even, you know, for commissions and all the volunteer commissions, which members
for appointed offices
who had to be, they were appointed by the selectmen and had to be approved by town meeting. And as a member of town meeting, as a committee of town meeting, we interviewed them and recommended them or didn't recommend them for approval. So it was interesting because you met all these wonderful people who were volunteering to do things.
And town meeting in Greenwich is really part of the form of government. It's the representative town meeting form of government.
Right.
And how many people were on the town meeting?
230.
230, really?
And not a very distinguished group.
Greenwich has what, 6 different areas or regions?
12.
12 that they represent?
And each district has a certain number of members depending on its population.
Yeah. And I assume some people on the town meeting were more active than others, is that right? Yeah, and you were fairly active. So you worked first at Cummings and Lockwood in 1973 as a title searcher.
It's 68.
68, right. And did title documents, I suppose, closings and all, real estate. And you had done that in North Carolina.
Yes.
Is it substantially different in Connecticut?
Well, the descriptions, there were descriptions I had to work with in North Carolina were really difficult because it went from, you know, a cherry tree along the creek bed to an oak and to somebody's fence, you know, and things like that. And it was really hard to know who owned what. Surveyors
didn't do a good business in pre-war in North Carolina?
And it can be like that in Connecticut too with the early deeds, but it gets more precise as you go along.
And tell me now, when you practiced in the 30s with your father, how did you find that?
It was great. Because I traveled all over the state with him. He had business, and I sat in on his conferences with other lawyers and mainly observed him in court. And it was a very happy, rewarding experience.
Did you assist him in trials?
Not in the preparation, but not in the actual trial itself.
And did you ever do any trial work yourself in those days?
Maybe a little bit, but not much.
Mostly appellate work. And you wrote briefs?
Yes.
Did you enjoy that?
Not particularly.
I would have thought as an English major that would have been interesting to you.
I never really was good at writing.
In the 6 cases you argued in the North Carolina Supreme Court, what was your record?
You know, I can't remember. I think it was pretty good, but I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to tell you that the story I tell on myself. I was sitting there waiting my turn one day, and became very critical mentally of all the men as they stood up to argue their cases, because one of them had shoes that was all scuffed up, and another one had pants that hadn't been pressed very well, and another one had a wrinkled coat. And I thought, gee, you know, these guys really ought to take more pride in the way they look when they come appear before the Supreme Court. And going home, my father said, well, Lee, you know, you did a very good job today, but he said, I have to tell you, your slip was showing the whole time.
So that was so much for your own
so much
dressing
for
down of everybody.
for the way I appeared.
Well, those things happen, I guess. So you did what kind of things? I suppose whatever came in the door?
Whatever.
What do you think the reaction was of clients to you when you were practicing?
Well, I'll tell
with
you
your
one that I will never forget. I was there on a Saturday afternoon, and this farmer came in. Everybody came to town on Saturday, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and he came in and wanted to see my brother, whose name was Erskine Smith, and he was not there. So I said, can I help you? Well, he was having some trouble with his pig, some dispute about his pig between him and his neighbor. And I you know, tried to tell him what I thought his rights were and so forth. So he said, well, how much do I owe you? And I didn't know what to charge him. And I said, well, you know, I don't know, I guess 50 cents. So he paid me, and then he said, I sure do wish I could have seen Mr. Erskine.
Yes. A vote of confidence from a satisfied
Right.
customer. Huh? Yeah. So whatever happened to the pig? You never heard further?
And then he didn't report back to me.
I see. And so the other lawyers in town, I mean, you can't be successful if you're the only lawyers in town, so there must have been others, right?
Oh, yes, there were.
And how did they relate to you?
Very, and we were just all good friends.
Yeah. You never felt any discrimination
No,
at all?
I really never did.
It's remarkable, actually, yeah. So you found it always a good experience. I
It
mean,
was just great.
some cases better than others, but yeah. And did you do some of the general corporate work too?
Some of it,
Yeah.
I'm sure. I just, my memory is so vague. I just really can't remember what we
Yeah.
did.
If you could think back, other than the story about the pig, is there any particular incident from the practice of law in North Carolina that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No.
I can't.
I mean, other than arguing in the Supreme Court with your slip
Yeah,
showing and...
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, and when you left in 39, but then you continued to work 39 and 40 part-time with your father,
Right.
and he was still in the active practice when you left?
Yes.
And so, when you came to Connecticut, you've done almost exclusively title work, conveyancing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Did you ever do any related work, like wills or anything like that?
I don't think I did in North Carolina, and I didn't in Connecticut either. I always thought I would get into it, and I got familiar with probate work because of title searching, but I never had time to learn. I was too busy with real estate.
Yeah. And when you came to Connecticut, did you have any mentors there, any people that helped you or that you worked with that you enjoyed particularly?
Everybody I ever worked with at Cummings and Lockwood, particularly the Greenwich office, I think they were all mentors. Their doors are always open, and they help with any problem you have.
And who encouraged you to take the bar?
Well, Jim Barton started, you know, Ms. McKeithan, why don't you take the bar? Well, at first he said, you're a member of the New York bar, aren't you? And I said, well, I used to be, you know, I guess so. And he said, well, you could do this closing in New York for me. And so I called New York and said, you know, I was admitted in New York in 1941. What do I have to do to practice law in New York? And this person said, once admitted, always admitted. And I said, what? And she said, once admitted, always admitted. And I said, can you send me some proof of that?
Yeah.
And she said, well, we'll send you a certificate, but we have to charge you $1 for it. And I said, send me 2. So anyway, Jim said, take the Connecticut bar. And I said, Jim, you're crazy. I couldn't drive to New Haven and take a course and drive home at night. And Bill Lynch said, finally, you know, after quite a while, he said, you know, we're not dissatisfied with your work. We just think for your own sake you should take the bar exam. You can study at the office when you're not busy, and we'll do whatever we can to help you. And it took me about a year to screw up my courage, and finally I thought, well, you know, this is something I shouldn't turn down.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find taking the bar exam? Let's see, the first one you took in 34, and the second one you took in 73, huh?
One of the nicest things anybody said to me, I was talking to this young lawyer one day, and he said, when did you take a bar exam before? And I said, in 1934, and this was 1972 by then. And he said, you know, this is a gutsy thing you're doing.
Yeah, it was a pretty gutsy thing. And how did you find the difference, did you think? Let's see, when you took the Connecticut bar, was it still the 36 essay questions, or was it part
No, it was
short
two
answers?
two
parts?
multi-state,
Yeah.
as well as, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many things that didn't even exist when I had taken the bar exam before. The commercial code, you know, and all the developments in constitutional law. I mean, things that, and then I had to learn new things, and then I had to try to remember things that I had forgotten and never wanted to think about again. I had to relearn all those things that I had in law school. It was, I studied with somebody else, and we drove back and forth to Hartford, and we made tapes, and I listened to tapes everywhere I went in the car, when I fixed breakfast in the morning, everything I did, I was listening to tapes and then studying, and it was just really, it was awful, but it worked.
Did you find it interesting and challenging, or tedious, or a balance of both?
At the end, I got interested in it again, and I took the exam, and I thought, I'm just going to enjoy myself for a month till I find out, and then if I have to take it again, I'll take it again.
Good for you. And of course you didn't.
And it actually passed. So I really got interested in it again, and I didn't think, you know, I wanted to do it.
You didn't think in the beginning that you
No.
wanted to do it? Yeah. So
I just got pushed into it.
It was a little tedious. Huh?
It's Cummings Lockwood pushed me into it.
Well, was it bad in the end? Not bad in the end.
Oh, it was great.
I always
just
thought
fantastic.
I always thought the fact that Phil Drake and Bill Lynch, the partners in the Greenwich office, who ran that office and the firm actually, the fact that they had just daughters probably was important in their judgments in pushing women in the firm. What do you think about that?
I never thought of that.
You don't think it had made any difference?
Well, you know, everybody was just so good to me. I don't think it made, maybe so, but.
So then in 1973 you became, instead of a legal assistant, an associate at the firm, is that right?
Yeah, I actually had my name on the letterhead. Lee S. McKeithan. And Warren Edgington said, you should change your name because nobody knows you're a woman.
And that was your third first in your legal career, right? You were the first woman partner at Cummings and Lockwood? Mm-hmm. And as near as we can...
Oh, then I wasn't made a partner until 1980.
1980.
But then...
Oh, that's right. Then the associates were on the letterhead as well.
The associates' names appeared on the letterhead.
But you decided, having changed your name once, you weren't going to change it again, huh?
Well, I just dropped part of it the first time.
That's right. Yeah. So. And you continued to do title work?
Yes, but I did a lot more, negotiations and...
Oh, you negotiated the contracts and worked with the banks and with the clients more directly then. And how did you find that?
I liked it. It was interesting, fascinating, stressful, but good.
It was stressful?
Could be.
Well, people get really, their homes are important to them, aren't they? Yeah. And I assume most of the closings that you did were residential.
Well, yes.
Yeah, although you did some commercial.
Some commercial.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Mostly residential.
Yeah, in Greenwich. And do you remember any particular experiences at closings?
Well, I remember the last one because I decided I wasn't going to do any more closings. And I decided it was just too stressful. I didn't think I was doing a good job for the client because it was too difficult.
When was that?
Well, it was 87, I think, 1987. The buyer was just very demanding, and he kept demanding things we couldn't do. We had not agreed to do, and couldn't, or things we had agreed to do that had to have input from him, which we never could get, and so forth. And we went through this long period of trying to get it closed, and finally got to the closing, and the buyer said, well, there's that big cabinet that's left in the hall. So my client wisely had not come. And I called him and I said, what's that big cabinet in the hall? And he said, oh, that's the cabinet that holds the telephone system for the whole house. I guess he had an elaborate system. He said, I spent $20,000 to have that installed, but he said, if he doesn't want it, we'll take it out. So I went back to the closing room and told the other attorney, who had kept our clients in a separate room, we'll take it out if they don't want it. Oh, well, they think they'll let that stay. So then she came back and she said, well, there's all that trash is still there. And I said, what trash? And she said, well, that old fence is still there, all piled up. And that has to be moved. So I called my client, and he said, oh, well, yes. He said, that's the fence that we put up to keep the deer out. But he said, if he doesn't want it, we'll have it moved. So I went back and they said, oh, well, yeah, we'll let that stay. So I decided, that was too much.
That was enough.
That was enough.
And now you consider that you're a retired partner. You describe yourself as a retired partner, and every time I want to reach you, I call Cummings and Lockwood at the Greenwich office, and there you are. So what do you do as a retired partner?
Well, I do the odds and ends of things that other people don't have time to do or don't want to do, like trips to town hall and searching titles and doing papers for lot planning and zoning, which requires, millions of papers to confirm a lot line that's been there for a long time. But they have new rules now which demand lots and lots of paperwork and bookwork. You have to do deed histories that go back to 1932 to show that this has never been a subdivision before, and copies of everything.
So you still do title work, and you
Time-consuming.
do zoning applications, you do documentation. Do you negotiate contracts?
No,
You don't?
no.
Did you enjoy that at one time?
Not too much. It got too stressful.
Yeah. Well, you know, I suppose when people were buying a house for $50 or $60 or $70,000, it was one thing, and if it's $3 million, it's something else. I
Well,
guess.
even if when it was 50 or 60, it was a big investment
Well, that's
for
true.
those people, and what 300,000 or 400,000 now is today.
And so you, from 73 to 80, were an associate at the firm, and then in 1980 you became the first woman partner. Did your practice change in any way?
I don't think so. I think I just, I had more prestige, but I think the practice was about the same.
And you did work on your clients and the firm's clients and whatever, is that right? And in order to generate clients, which is always a constant thing, you were still involved in community activities, is that right?
Yes.
And what were some of those?
Well, I think I've told you the only other thing was was not a community thing, but I was on the governor's ad hoc committee to review judicial nominations.
Right, before the Judicial Selection Commission, Governor Grasso set up a committee of her own, and you were on that committee for what period of time?
For about 6 or 7 years till it was dissolved. And I was not on it in the beginning when she set it up, but when someone from our section of the state resigned, she wanted a Republican down there, and Ruth Sims, who was a good friend of mine and a Democrat, recommended me for it. She was first selectman.
Yeah.
And so I was on that, which was interesting.
Well, how did you come to get an award from the Y then? You weren't active in the Y?
Well, Linda Chiswick heard about this award ceremony, and she had worked with me at Cummings and Lockwood, and she talked Bob Grayley into agreeing that Cummings and Lockwood would take a table if I got nominated. So she had me put together stuff, and she wrote up a very glowing recommendation.
And what was that award?
It was called the Brava Award, B-R-A-V-A, which is given to women and to young women in high school who have done a lot of community service. And I think it's done, to encourage the young women to do things like that, because we would, that year, it varies a little bit from year to year, but that year we were asked to write an acceptance speech with advice to young women about, what advice would you give to a young woman? And
and the same time you got that award, Speaker Moore Alliance got an award the same time as you. Was that the same award? Yeah. But it wasn't for your activities with the YWCA in Greenwich?
No, not for that particular organization. No, it was for lots of other organizations.
And which of your community activities after you practiced law did you enjoy the most?
Well, I think one of the two committees that I was on that involved interviewing people for jobs, the Town Officers Committee and the ad hoc committee
for judicial selection.
Judicial nominations.
Yeah. Why did you enjoy that?
Well, I enjoyed meeting the people and hearing about their lives and interests and so forth, and trying to choose good people.
Yeah. So. Now, when you took the bar, this young lawyer said to you that it was a gutsy thing. I assume there were other women and perhaps men who were older taking the bar with you in 1973. Is that right?
In the cram course that I took in Hartford, there were lots of there were older men. In fact, the man with whom I took it, a neighbor, was was retiring from a corporate job and just wanted, he was a patent attorney and he could practice patent law anywhere in the United States, but he just decided he wanted the Connecticut bar to say he was a member of the bar. And there were corporate lawyers from New York who lived in Connecticut but wanted to practice here. And they had to take the bar because they weren't litigators.
Right.
And then there were young people who had taken it. There was one guy, very personable young man in our cram course, who was taking it for the 4th time. And everybody was really rooting for him to make it through this time, and he did. But it was a varied class.
How many people were in that class?
I don't know, maybe 30 or 40.
Did you take it in the summer or the winter?
Through the winter on Saturdays in Hartford.
Yeah, and when did you take the bar exam? In February or in July?
In February.
In February, yeah.
And I passed just before my 60th birthday.
Well, that was
I was
good.
admitted. I was sworn in.
Yeah. And how about the gentleman that you commuted with? How did he do?
He passed.
Good.
I had, I don't know how much personal stuff you want, but I had decided to have a dinner party. We had gotten to be very good friends with a man from New Canaan. We used to take our own lunch and sit and have lunch together. So I invited my friend I was taking it with and the man from New Canaan and their wives and some other friends that I had in Old Greenwich, the people, anyway. And for Saturday night dinner, before we were supposed to learn on Monday who had passed and who hadn't. You see, and I thought, wow, we were still good friends.
Yes.
So then I learned that we could call on Friday and find out whether we had passed or not. And I thought, oh no, all my plans. So I had gotten coins and was going to go downstairs at the payphone because I didn't want to see people in the office, have people in the office see me break down when I found out I hadn't passed. And the phone rang, and it was Ed O'Mara's secretary. Ed was a lawyer in Alabama who was on the Board of Bar Examiners. And she said, Mr. O'Mara likes for me to call the people in Greenwich who've passed and let them know that they've passed, and he wants you to know you passed the exam. So then I decided I would call the number and find out whether my cohort, Evans Kahn, had passed. And I called, and they said, no, he didn't pass. His name's not on the list. So I didn't know what to do. So I called him in New York, and I said, Evans, I think, if you call this number, you can find out whether you passed or not. And so he called me back in a few minutes, and he said, I passed.
Oh, really?
And I think it was because his name was Evans Kahn, and they either looked under Evans instead of Kahn, or Kahn instead of Evans, and missed it.
Well, that's interesting.
And I was so relieved.
So that was a happy group.
And then the man at New Canaan had passed too. So I said it was the best dinner party I ever had in my life.
It was a triple header.
We really could celebrate.
Yeah. Well, on that good news, I think we'll take a break.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Lee. So. Lee, during the break, we talked a little bit about some of the things that you've been involved with, some of the projects that you've undertaken, and some of the land issues. And you mentioned to me that you thought things have changed in terms of land use, even since you started to practice, and how landowners do what they do. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think that that people in Greenwich, there's a strong feeling of wanting to keep Greenwich just the way it is, not have neighborhoods change in appearance. For instance, real estate has gotten so expensive. Land itself has gotten scarce and expensive. And many people now are moving to town, tearing down houses and building what their neighbors feel are monstrosities, you know, squeezing as many square feet as they possibly can onto a lot. There are FAR restrictions and so forth.
What's FAR?
That's floor area ratio, the size of the house in proportion to the amount of land, and there are restrictions as to what the proportion is. Not in all zones even. Some of the larger zones, anyway, there's a move to tighten up those restrictions. And people are very critical of the boards of the Planning and Zoning Board of Appeals, which hears appeals for variances of these rules based usually just on hardship, and also of the Planning and Zoning Board, which makes the rules and administers the zoning laws. Not to let Greenwich grow differently from the way it is. And so there's a lot of pressure on them, and they keep tightening their regulations, I think based partly on the pressure to keep things the same. And that's one reason that their rules and regulations for making decisions are getting more onerous. They're demanding more and more paperwork from anybody who wants to make any kind of change. Even neighbors now who just want to make an equal exchange to change a lot line have to go through a long procedure of submitting the whole deed history for each lot, going back to 1932 to satisfy the board, the zoning commission, that this has never been part of another subdivision, and so forth and so on and so on.
Now, is this good or bad?
It makes entirely too much work, to my mind, as a person who has to do it in many cases. That's unnecessary, and that is really not needed, and that it's not fair to spend the amount of time and effort and 2 copies of everything and maps and surveys and so forth. It's not fair to the client or to the landowner to have to go through such a long procedure. It should be a very simple process of having one official who can look at it and say, yes, this is fine, go ahead. It doesn't really change the neighborhood. I mean, there's certain things that shouldn't require all this paperwork.
Yeah. But of course, as you said, you can't complain too much because in part that gives you a job, I suppose.
But it gives me something to do.
Yeah. Probably
that
not
nobody else wants to spend time on and shouldn't have to spend time on.
Probably not the most satisfying work you've done, right?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, every different one is interesting and sort of fun to put it all together. But
the clients are interesting, don't you think?
The clients
are interesting.
The clients are interesting, yes.
Yeah.
I love the clients. I like the people. I like to work with the people.
You still work day to day with the clients?
Some.
And the people
somewhat,
at the
yes.
boards at the town hall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any particular stories other than your last closing that you'd like to relate to us about working with clients that you found interesting or satisfying?
I can't, I wish I could think of some good stories to tell you.
So I remember one time you did a closing actually for a good friend of mine, and it was one of those somewhat contentious closings, and I don't remember the issue, but there was some problem with, I think they were selling a house in Greenwich, and you related to me afterwards that my friend and his spouse, they're both friends of mine, were so unhappy that you said something, you thought something had gone bad wrong and you couldn't figure out what it was. That was probably about 15 years ago or so. But most closings are pretty happy events, I take it.
Well, they should be happy events, but sometimes they got to be very unhappy events.
Mm-hmm.
They should be happy, but people, the buyer feels as if he's spending a lot of money for this house, more than he intended to spend, and everything should be just super perfect. And the seller feels that he's come down in his price, he's not getting what he really was asking for it and thought he should be able to get, and why should he do anything extra, that he didn't think he was going to have to do. And so they can start arguing and disagreeing over just, little things.
Over nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like this fence that keeps the deer out.
That's right.
Yeah. Interesting. Any particular dispute that you've been in where you felt that you were on the unpopular side wrongly?
I really can't remember. Maybe they just didn't tell me when they were so unhappy with what I did.
Well, no, but I mean, if there was something that you were doing with a subdivision or something that was unpopular, you say there's a lot of pressure now to keep everything exactly the same as it was, and I'm sure you've worked on applications where people wanted to do something that was really unpopular and it became notoriously unpopular. Were you ever involved in any of those disputes?
I don't think so, Ian.
Yeah. So,
trying to think. My memory is not as great as it should be. Maybe I brushed aside the ones that were unfortunate.
Well, we do tend to forget those things that are unpleasant, I think. So, Lee, you've had now a law career that's 65 years, or at least over 65 years, spanned over 65 years. Would you do it again?
I think that everything that's happened to me in my life has been so lucky, so fortunate, that I wouldn't want to do any of it over again. I wouldn't be as lucky the next time. I think that everything has just fallen into place for me so beautifully, and the law has been great because I would recommend it to any woman who's interested in law at all, or thinks she might be, because it's worked so well for me. I practiced law and enjoyed it, but never thought I could go back to it. And then I stayed home with my children, which I really wanted to do, and my husband made it possible to do, and I wouldn't take anything for having been able to do that. And then, because of Cummings and Lockwood, I was able to go back to it. And I think if I could go back and take a bar exam, anybody could. And I would recommend it.
You're being a little too modest, but
no,
yes.
I would recommend it to any woman as something you can do, and it helps you, all through life. And then even though you've given it up, you can go back to it.
Is there any advice that you would give to a young lawyer, male or female in particular, different from what you've just told me?
No, I would say stay home with your children when you can. I know wonderfully successful, wonderful young women lawyers who managed to do both. I could never have done that. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done both together. I'm not that smart or efficient. And I think that it means so much, it meant so much to me then, and it means so much to me now that I could just concentrate on one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just been really lucky. And I know Linda Chiswick is an example in our office who had her baby and was just going to take maternity leave, and then she decided she was just going to stay home with that baby. He was too precious. Mm-hmm. And I encouraged her I said, you can always come back to law. Stay home, while you can. And I would say that to any young woman.
And you think the law particularly is suited to that?
Well, I think it has certainly led itself to that for me.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to ask you an unfair question, a question that you couldn't ask of me. You live on Sound Beach Avenue in Old Greenwich, and that's the main street, goes through the village of Old Greenwich, and it goes down to the water. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of litigation over that mm-hmm. little road that you live on, down to Todd's Point, that nice beach area they have in Greenwich. Do you have an opinion about that?
I have a very strong opinion.
You want to share it?
Yes, I think that outsiders should not be allowed to come and use it, except as guests of residents of the town. It belongs to the town. The town bought it. The town maintains it. Our taxes go to support it. And the citizens of the town, you have to be a resident of the town to have a beach pass. And you have to pay for it. School children don't pay, and seniors like me don't pay, but everybody else pays. And if you take a guest, you pay for the guest. When my children come home to visit, I have to pay for them to go in. And if we opened it to other towns which are joined, and they could just come and even if they paid a fee to go in, use it like a public beach, it would be too much ecologically for that little, what used to be an island. Even for the use it gets now, there's a committee which sort of oversees it, a volunteer committee, and advises the town, but does not want any more development there, no more parking lots, no more cleared land, to preserve the trees and the wildlife that are there. And it can't take any more people than it has.
And how about the traffic on your street? And
the traffic on my street, of course, is heavy, very heavy in the summer. I have trouble getting out of my driveway in the summer at best. And as I was, one 4th of July, I remember traffic was backed up all the way in front of my house with cars waiting to get in. And that's when it's, that's with the restrictions that are on it now.
And how far do you live from the park?
I would say maybe 3/4 of a mile or a mile.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
I can't think. I just think that I've been so lucky, and I've had such a wonderful life. I couldn't think of anything that anybody who could be luckier.
Well, you know, you're very gracious, Lee, and it was very nice of you to come all the way up to Hartford or West Hartford today to talk with us. And I have felt for a long time that you're a very interesting and inspiring person, and I'm glad that you've had the opportunity to share all that with others. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.